So those four things, education, passion, outreach, and love, are the things that I did as a candidate when I ran for Congress. I ran in a special election to fill the remainder of John Lewis's term, the late Congressman John Lewis, in a special election. I was only the second candidate, I believe, to be running for Congress in Georgia. And when I ran, you know, there's the metric of victory, of course, of winning a race. And I really wanted to win that race. I would have loved to have been a congressman for the 5th District in Georgia. But I had other metrics of victory as well. And one of those was I wanted to make sure that when I went out and spoke the liberty message, I spoke it and I presented it in a way that people who had never heard from a libertarian before, or who might have a misconceived notion about what a libertarian is, could learn that, hey, I'm actually more libertarian than I realized. And I did that because I ran in the bluest district in the country. The 5th District in Atlanta is certainly the bluest district in the Southeast, if not the entire country. They've had Democratic stronghold, you know, in power my entire life, probably 50 years before then. So I got to speak to a lot of Democrats. I was invited to 24 forums. I was happy to speak to those, and most of those audiences were hardcore Democrats, people who were ready to hear from the other 5 Democrats and the one independent other than myself in the race. And what I got a lot of times was great reception from people. I would go back through and I'd see the comments. I've never heard from a libertarian before. This guy's making sense. I like what this guy's having to say. Why don't we have these kind of ideas? And that's the ideas that I wanted to bring forth in Atlanta. So now next time when a libertarian runs for city council or for mayor, they're going to go, I remember that Libertarian Party. I remember what they're about. They're about actual solutions. They're about things that we're marching in the streets for. You know, we now have a Democratic Senate, right? Who here thinks, honestly, we're going to see the kind of criminal justice reforms that we saw people marching for in the streets of Atlanta? That we had the National Guard rolling their tanks down the street to prevent the people from fighting for? Are we going to get that change? We're not. And so we need to make sure that we're the messengers, and as we move through, that we say, we are here to fight for your issues, the issues that you care about, and we're not just going to provide you lip service. We're going to fight for those things. I fought really hard on a criminal justice reform platform. I was talking about ending cash bail. I was the first candidate, I think, ever to be attacked hardcore by the cash bail industry because all I did was talk about ending cash bail. And that idea, over time, started getting talked about in the forums we were talking about. And it got to where questioners would say, we understand you're running on a platform of ending cash bail, what's that about? Same thing with ending qualified immunity. I was the most hardened candidate to say that cops need to be held accountable for the actions they take. Because when they're held accountable, they'll do less bad things to people. Because guess what? They'll get punished. And that's what we need. We need to make sure that the individuals have the power over those who have a badge. And you know, talking to Democrats, you get a lot of gotcha questions when you're a libertarian. And one of those was about guns, right? They asked me, what's about Parkland? How do you feel about these school shootings? What are you going to do about that if you're a congressman? And I answered honestly, I'm not going to do anything about that because I believe that we have a Second Amendment. We all have a right to protect ourselves. And it's not individuals who are committing shootings that we need to be worrying about as congresspeople. If I'm in Congress, I'm going to worry about the shootings that happen with people who have a badge on their chest and who do so in the name of the taxpayer, because those are the people who need to be held accountable, and those are the people, that's the gun violence epidemic that I want to talk about. And when I said that, a lot of people nodded and said, you know what? The government is the real enemy here, and that's the real gun violence we're having to fight. So, you know, if we're going to communicate our message to red audiences, to blue audiences, we have to communicate to all audiences and let them know that the liberty message is something that is for everybody who wants to live free. Now, this is kind of a great philosopher named RuPaul once said, we're all born naked and the rest is drag. I believe that we are all born free and the rest is government. And we need to be saying that message to everyone. That being said, I think I have a few minutes left, and if anybody would like to ask questions about running for office or about that experience, I'd love to answer those questions.
You want me to move the mic again?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Right there.
And turn it on, please.
Maybe lower it a little bit.
Lower it.
How about that?
guys can hear me? Yep. Chase, thank you for running for office. I was proud to. I donated a small amount to your campaign. What was the thing that was most difficult, other than the ballot access thing? We'll talk about ballot access, but was there something one day that made you go, God, I feel like quitting?
Well, you know, first and foremost, ballot access is certainly a challenge in this state. If people want to run for Congress like I did, I got the chance to because it was a special election, and you know, I didn't have a signature requirement, this cumbersome signature requirement that, you know, Angela's decided she's going to run against Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm going to try to make sure she gets as many signatures as she can because it's a very hard hurdle to overcome. I didn't have that to overcome, so I had an advantage there of not having that ballot access hurdle. But we do need ballot access reform in the state, obviously. And I'm also a big advocate of ranked choice voting. That's another issue that I brought up to a lot of people, made them start nodding their heads going, oh yeah, we can vote ranked choice voting, we don't have to do this stupid runoff thing that we do all the time. Biggest challenge for me in being a candidate was being a candidate in the age of COVID and lockdowns. It made the traditional door knocking pretty much impossible. You know, we could start knocking doors, but nobody's going to answer the door when a random stranger is there that they don't know, in the middle of a pandemic, like, I'm wearing this mask, come vote for me. That doesn't work. So what I did is I tried to change it a little bit, and so I started just basically setting up a table at Piedmont Park, and as people pass by, hey, please come over and talk to us. We're all sanitized, we're wearing masks, we got you. Please take our literature. Please know that there's an election coming up. And so I had to try to do direct voter engagement in places where people were still congregating, and I figured parks were about the only place that was going on. So I moved my campaign mostly to parks and along the Beltline of Atlanta, and that's how I got to meet a lot of people. One of my favorite moments of the campaign is after early voting had started, we're doing, me and Angela and some other folks, Zach was there too, we were at the Beltline, and someone runs up to me like, is Chase here? Is Chase here? I'm wearing a mask. And they're like, that's Chase over there. And he's, I just wanted to tell you I just early voted for you. That was the greatest feeling I've ever had in my life. And I want Libertarian candidates to have that moment all over the country and all over the state of Georgia. So there's a lot of challenges, a lot of sleepless nights, and another challenge is you got to make those calls to donors and to supporters. And I was lucky that I had an excellent volunteer coordinator in Pam Alexander, who's now our treasurer, so I feel like we're in really good hands there. But yeah. So are we about 15 minutes, or I can, does anybody else have any questions? I'd love to entertain any questions from anybody. No. You can go right up and tell us, sir. I'm sorry, I caught your name earlier. What is it?
App.
App?
Yes, sir. And I saw you in the drag calendar. Good job. Good job. But no, were there any tools or resources that you wish you had during that campaign that you weren't able to, or that maybe you didn't think of, and you're like, oh man, this would have really helped, or whatever?
Well, I can say my campaign was very brief. It was during the end of July to the end of September. So I had 3 months to basically get a campaign apparatus up and going. If I had had more time, I would have probably had more phone banking and that kind of traditional campaign apparatus. I didn't really get to set that up because of just the briefness in time and how quickly everything happened. That's one of the things I wish I could have done. I wish we could have had more people getting calls out saying, there's an election in your district, just so you know, and there's a Libertarian here. I think that would have helped my vote totals. And I think that would have helped get the message out. So in terms of what tools I wish I had, definitely more phone banking. And that is not to speak bad about anything about the state party structure, because it's just a matter of we didn't have really the time to get it all set up, and shit got crazy. Like, that's how it is when you're running in a 3-month race. So, but yeah, that was probably the toughest challenge. And thank you for mentioning the Outright calendar. I am the fundraising director of Outright Libertarians. Woo! I do want to shout them out real quick. We are a charity organization who is devoted to bridging the gap between the Libertarian Party and gender and sexual minorities, traditionally what we call LGBTQ+. And so if you want to go out there, check us out. You can check out our page and join for free at outrightusa.com. Join our mailing list, become a donor. We are going to do lots and lots of great things in the next coming years. We want to make sure we're a presence at every convention, and that we're letting gender and sexual minorities know that the Libertarian Party is ready, willing, and able to help them be, as free as they can be, and that we've been there all along since the founding of our party. So So if anybody would like a calendar or a rainbow Gadsden flag, please come out and buy one. I will be happy to sign one. We also have Dave Jones, who's Miss November, and Tyler Smith, who's Miss March, running around. They'll be happy to sign your calendar as well. So thank you very much, everybody. It's been a pleasure to speak to you all. And as I say to everybody, peace, love, and liberty.